The alarm went off at 3 in the morning. Commander Jake Martinez rolled out of his bed and grabbed his uniform. He had been sleeping in his quarters at Terra Station for only 2 hours, but emergency calls never waited for anyone to get enough. Jake walked quickly through the metal corridors of the space station. His boots made loud sounds on the floor as he hurried to the command center. Other soldiers were moving around too, all heading to their posts. Something big was happening. The command center was full of people when Jake arrived. Officers stood around the main screen, talking in low voices. Captain Lisa Brooks was already there, studying data on her personal tablet. She looked up when Jake entered the room. "We got a message," Lisa said without any greeting. "It came through the Deep Space Network about 20 minutes ago. You need to see this." Jake moved closer to the main screen. The message was playing. Again from the beginning. The voice that came through the speakers was strange, not human at all. It sounded like wind blowing through crystal caves. "This is Ambassador Zethka of the Viridian Republic," the alien voice said. "We send this message to the military forces of Earth. Our people are dying. We need help." The screen showed images that made Jake's stomach turn. Huge insect-like creatures were attacking beautiful crystal cities. The insects moved in massive groups, destroying everything in their path. Buildings fell down like they were made of paper. Ships tried to escape but were shot down before they could leave the atmosphere. "The Krokan horde has invaded our system," the alien voice continued. "They have already destroyed 47 worlds in our sector. Our shields are failing. Our evacuation ships cannot escape. We have maybe 3 days before they reach our home world. After that, our entire species will be extinct." Jake watched as more images played. The insects were bigger than humans and covered in thick armor. They moved together like a single mind controlled them all. Their ships were crude but powerful, built only for war and destruction. "We know humans are feared throughout the galaxy," Zethka's voice said. "We know other species avoid you because of your skill in war. We have never asked anyone for military help before. Our people do not believe in violence, but now we must choose between our beliefs and our survival." The message paused for a moment. When it continued, the alien's voice sounded desperate. "In exchange for your help, we offer information that no other species possesses. We will tell you the location of 3 Nexus gates. These ancient portals allow instant travel across the galaxy. Many civilizations have searched for them for thousands of years. We give this knowledge freely if you can save our people." The message ended. The command center became very quiet. Everyone knew what the Nexus gates meant. With that technology, Earth could reach any part of the galaxy in seconds instead of months. It would change everything. "How long since they sent this?" Jake asked. "The signal took 18 hours to reach us," Lisa replied. "If they had 3 days when they sent it, we have about 54 hours before the final attack begins." Admiral Roy Peterson entered the command center. He was a tall man with gray hair and scars on his face from old battles. Everyone stepped aside to let him see the screen. "Play it again," Peterson ordered. They watched the message 2 more times. Peterson's face showed no emotion, but Jake could see his hands were tight fists. "What do we know about these Viridians?" Peterson asked. Lieutenant Amy Stone stepped forward. She was young but very smart about military strategy. "They're completely peaceful, sir. No weapons, no military at all. They've never fought a war in their recorded history. Their technology is all about building and healing, not destroying." "And the Krokan horde?" "Bad news, sir. They're like a plague that moves from world to world. They eat everything organic and use the materials to build more ships and weapons. Intelligence reports say they have over 50 million warriors in this attack." Peterson was quiet for a long moment. 50 million against how many Viridians?" "About 200 million total, sir, but none of them are soldiers." Jake felt sick thinking about it. 200 million peaceful aliens about to be destroyed by a horde of killer insects. But 50 million enemies was more than Earth had ever fought at one time. "Sir," Sergeant Dan Cooper spoke up from the back of the room. He was a big man who specialized in explosives. "Even if we wanted to help, how could we get there in time? It's 18 hours just for signals to travel that distance." Peterson smiled for the first time since entering the room. We've been working on something new. Experimental jump drives that can move a small fleet across that distance in about 30 hours. The technology isn't proven yet, but this might be the time to test it. A new alarm started ringing. This one meant an incoming ship was requesting permission to dock. Jake looked at the arrival screen and saw something he had never expected. It's a Viridian diplomatic vessel, the communications officer announced. They're requesting emergency docking rights. Let them dock, Peterson ordered, and get a full medical team ready. If they traveled here at maximum speed, they're probably in bad shape. 20 minutes later, Ambassador Zeth Ka walked into the command center. Jake had never seen a Viridian before. The alien was tall and thin with skin that looked like colored glass. Parts of his body glowed softly with inner light. He moved slowly, like every step caused pain. "Thank you for receiving me," Zeth Ka said. His voice sounded even stranger in person. "I came as fast as our ships could travel. My people are dying while we speak." Peterson stepped forward. "Ambassador, I'm Admiral Peterson. We received your message, but I need to know more before I can commit Earth's military forces." Zeth Ka nodded. "Ask anything you need to know." "Why us?" "There are other military powers in the galaxy. Some of them are closer to your system." The alien's glowing eyes looked directly at Peterson. "Because they are not strong enough. The Alteran Empire has twice as many ships as you, but they fight with honor and rules. The Kroken Horde has no honor. They will defeat the Altarans easily." "And you think we won't fight with honor?" "I think humans fight to win," Zeth Ka replied. "Other species fight to prove they are brave or strong. Humans fight to make their enemies stop fighting. Forever." The room became very quiet again. Jake realized that the alien understood something that many humans preferred not to think about. Earth's military was feared not because they were the strongest or had the best weapons, but because they were willing to do whatever it took to win. "The Nexus gates," Peterson said. "How do we know you really have that information?" Zeth Ka reached into a pouch on his belt and pulled out a small crystal device. "This contains the complete location data for 3 gates in your local galactic region. I give it to you now as proof of our good faith." Peterson took the device carefully. "If this information is real, it's worth more than most planets. If my people die, nothing has worth to me." Zeth Ka replied simply. Jake watched as Peterson made his decision. The Admiral's face showed the weight of choosing to send human soldiers into a battle against impossible odds, in a place far from home, for people they had never met. "Captain Brooks," Peterson said finally, "prepare your team. For immediate deployment, we leave in 6 hours." Captain Lisa Brooks stood in the briefing room looking at the holographic display of the Viridian star system. The images showed a beautiful arrangement of planets with crystal cities and floating gardens. But the outer edges of the system were dark with Kroken ships, millions of them. "Tell me what we're really facing," Lisa said to Lieutenant Amy Stone. Amy touched her tablet and new images appeared. Close-up pictures of Kroken warriors filled the room. The creatures were nightmare versions of giant insects. Each one stood 8 feet tall with 4 arms that ended in razor-sharp claws. Their bodies were covered in natural armor that looked harder than steel. "They're physically superior to humans in every way," Amy explained. "Stronger, faster, and nearly bulletproof. But that's not the worst part." She showed more images. Thousands of Krokens moving together in perfect coordination, like a single organism with many bodies. "They share a group mind," Amy continued. "One central intelligence controls them all. They never get confused, never make mistakes in coordination, and never retreat unless the main brain tells them to." Sergeant Dan Cooper whistled low. "How many did you say there were?" "Our best count is 52 million in the main force, plus support creatures and breeding stock. They've been growing their numbers by consuming the populations of conquered worlds." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. She had fought in many battles, but never against anything like this. "What about their technology?" "Crude but effective," Amy replied. "Their ships are basically flying rocks with engines and weapons attached. No fancy shields or computer systems. just armor plating and big guns. The good news is, that makes them vulnerable to certain types of attack. And the bad news? They don't need fancy technology. When you have 50 million soldiers who never get tired, never get afraid, and never question orders, you can win battles just by overwhelming your enemy. Ambassador Zethka entered the briefing room. The alien moved carefully, still weak from his long journey. His crystalline skin looked duller than before, like he was running out of energy. "Captain Brooks," Zethka said, "I have brought more information about our worlds. Perhaps it will help you plan your strategy." The alien connected a device to the holographic display. New images appeared showing the inside of Viridian cities. Lisa was amazed by what she saw. The buildings were grown rather than built, shaped from living crystal that sparkled with inner light. Gardens floated in the air without any visible support. The Viridian people moved peacefully through their cities, all of them glowing softly like their ambassador. "Your people are beautiful," Lisa said honestly. "We have spent 1,000 years learning to live in harmony," Zethka replied. "We create instead of destroy. We heal instead of harm. We have never built a weapon or fought a war. Then how did you survive in a galaxy full of dangerous species? We hide. Our worlds are protected by powerful shields that make us invisible to most. Scanners. For centuries we have been safe in our hidden systems, but not anymore." Zethka's glow dimmed further. "The Krokan horde is different. They do not use scanners to find prey. They follow energy signatures. Our shields protect us from enemies who want to avoid us. But the Krokans want to consume us. Our shields actually attract them because they show how much life energy exists in our system." Corporal Nick Johnson spoke up from the corner where he had been cleaning his rifle. "So your protection became a target sign?" "Yes." The irony is bitter. Lisa studied the tactical display again. The Krokan forces were spread across the outer system in a pattern that made no sense according to normal military strategy. Instead of forming attack groups or establishing supply lines, they seemed to be scattered randomly. "Amy, look at this deployment. What do you think they're doing?" Amy examined the display carefully. "It looks like they're not following any battle plan at all, just moving toward the inner system in a big mob." "That's because they don't need strategy," Zethka said sadly. "When you have overwhelming numbers and every soldier is controlled by one perfect mind, you can win simply by moving forward. They have destroyed 47 civilizations using this same approach." Lisa felt something click in her mind. An idea was forming, dangerous and crazy, but it might work. "Dan, what would happen if we could disrupt their group mind? Even for a short time?" The big sergeant thought for a moment. "If they suddenly couldn't coordinate, 50 million soldiers would become 50 million individuals all trying to figure out what to do. It would be chaos. Could you create something that would interfere with their mental connection?" Dan grinned, the kind of smile that made enemy soldiers nervous. "Maybe. I'd need to know more about how their brain link works. But disrupting communications is what I do best." Amy looked excited. "If we could break their coordination even temporarily, we could use their numbers against them. 50 million confused soldiers would be easier to handle than 50 million coordinated ones." "But we still couldn't fight them directly," Nick pointed out. "Even confused, they're still stronger and tougher than us." Lisa nodded. "We don't fight them directly. We make them fight each other." She turned to Zethka. "Tell me about your shield technology. Could it be modified to work in small areas instead of protecting whole planets? And possibly. But why would you want smaller shields? To create barriers. If we could put up walls that the Krokans couldn't break through quickly, we could channel them into specific areas. Control where they go." Amy's eyes lit up. "Divide and conquer. Split their forces into smaller groups, then deal with each group separately." "Exactly. But first we need to disrupt their group mind." "Dan, how long do you need to develop something?" "Give me 12 hours and access to your ship's chemistry lab. I'll have something ready." Lisa looked around the room. Her team was small compared to the enemy they were facing, but she had seen humans win against worse odds before. The key was not to fight the enemy's strengths, but to turn those strengths into weaknesses. "Nick, I need you to study the Krokan command structure. Find out where their main brain is located. If we can target the central intelligence, we might be able to shut down the whole horde. Already working on it, Nick replied, pointing to his tablet. Looks like they have a massive ship at the center of their formation, probably where the Queen or Mastermind lives. Admiral Peterson entered the briefing room. His face showed the stress of preparing for humanity's biggest military operation in decades. Captain, we've got the experimental jump drives ready, but I have to warn you, we've never tested them over this distance. There's a chance the ships could be torn apart during the jump. What are our chances? Honestly? About 60% that we'll arrive in one piece, but if we use conventional drives, we'll get there 3 days too late. Lisa looked at her team. Dan was already making notes about chemical compounds. Amy was studying tactical formations. Nick was analyzing enemy positions. They were ready to risk everything for people they had never met. We take the risk, Lisa decided. When do we leave? 4 hours. The UES Retribution is being loaded with everything you requested, plus some experimental weapons that haven't been field tested yet. Zethka stepped forward. Captain Brooks, I must ask you something. Why are you doing this? Your people gain nothing if mine survive except the location of the Nexus gates, but you risk losing everything if you fail. Lisa was quiet for a moment, thinking about how to explain something that many humans didn't fully understand themselves. Because someone has to, she said finally. In this galaxy, there are species that create beautiful things like your cities and gardens, and there are species that destroy everything they touch. If the destroyers always win, eventually there won't be anything beautiful left. The alien's glow brightened slightly. I think I understand why other species fear you. Not because you are evil, but because you are willing to become monsters to fight monsters. Sometimes that's what it takes. 4 hours later, Lisa stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution as the ship prepared for its experimental jump across the galaxy. Her team was ready. Their plan was desperate and dangerous, but it was their only chance to save 200 million innocent lives. The jump drive powered up with a sound like thunder. Reality twisted around them as the ship tore through space in time toward a battle that would determine whether the galaxy's peaceful species could survive in a universe full of predators. The UES Retribution dropped out of its experimental jump at the edge of the Viridian system. Captain Lisa Brooks felt her stomach settle as normal space returned around them. The jump had worked, but barely. Half the ship's systems were flickering, red warning lights. Report, Lisa called out. Jump drive is completely burned out, reported Chief Engineer Kate Miller. We're not getting home the same way we came, but we're here, and we're in one piece. Lisa looked at the main screen and felt her heart sink. The Krokan horde was even bigger than the intelligence reports had suggested. The outer system was black with enemy ships. Millions of them formed a moving wall of destruction heading toward the inner planets. My God, whispered Lieutenant Amy Stone. There must be 70 million of them now. They've been breeding during their attack. Ambassador Zethka stood beside Lisa on the bridge. The alien's glow was very dim now, barely visible. Captain, our shields will fail in 18 hours. After that, the final attack begins. Lisa studied the tactical display. The Krokan forces were spread across space in what looked like random groups, but she could see the pattern now. They were positioning themselves to attack from all directions at once, making it impossible for anyone to escape. Nick, do you have a target for their command ship? Corporal Nick Johnson pointed to a massive vessel at the center of the enemy formation. That's gotta be it. It's 10 times bigger than their other ships and heavily protected. But Captain, it's surrounded by at least 1 million escort vessels. Dan, is your disruption compound ready? Sergeant Dan Cooper held up a container filled with strange purple liquid. Ready to go, but we need to get it into their command network somehow. I can't just throw it at them from here. Lisa looked at the display again. The enemy formation had one weakness that their commanders probably didn't even realize. They were so confident in their overwhelming numbers that they hadn't bothered with proper defensive positions. Amy, I need you to calculate something. If we destabilize asteroids in the outer belt and send them toward the enemy formation, how much confusion would that create? Amy worked quickly on her tablet. A lot, actually. Their ships are packed so tightly together that they'd have trouble maneuvering around large obstacles. But Captain, asteroids move slowly. They'd have plenty of time to shoot them down. Not, if we time it right. Lisa turned to the weapons officer. How many precision charges do we have? 48, Captain. Enough to crack open a small moon. Lisa smiled. Perfect. Here's what we're going to do. She began explaining her plan. It was crazy and dangerous, but it used the enemy's strengths against them. The Krokan horde was like a huge machine, powerful but not flexible. If they could jam the gears of that machine, the whole thing might break down. Nick, you and Dan are going to take a small shuttle and get close to their command ship. Use the asteroid chaos as cover. Dan will deploy his compound directly into their communication systems. What about the million escort ships? Nick asked. That's where the second part of the plan comes in. Amy, you're going to coordinate with the Viridian shield operators. Instead of using their shields to protect the planets, we're going to use them as weapons. Ambassador Zethka looked confused. I do not understand. Our shields are designed to protect, not harm. Exactly. But what happens when you suddenly put up a barrier in the middle of a group of ships flying at high speed? Amy's eyes widened. They crash into it, or into each other trying to avoid it. The Krokans are used to empty space. They're not expecting walls to suddenly appear in front of them. If we coordinate the shield placement with the asteroid impacts, we can create massive collisions throughout their formation. Lisa walked over to the communication station. Get me a direct line to the Viridian homeworld. I need to talk to whoever controls their shield systems. The connection took several minutes to establish. When it came through, Lisa was speaking to a Viridian engineer named Yethna, who sounded terrified but determined to help. Engineer Yethna, I need you to reprogram your planetary shields. Instead of one big protective bubble, I need you to create dozens of smaller barriers that can be moved quickly. That is possible, the alien replied, but it will leave our cities unprotected. If this plan works, you won't need protection. If it doesn't work, the shields won't save you anyway. Lisa looked around the bridge. Her crew was ready, even though they all knew this was probably a suicide mission. The odds against them were impossible, but humans had a long history of doing impossible things. Execute Phase 1, Lisa ordered. The Retribution fired all 48 precision charges at carefully selected asteroids in the outer belt. The explosions were perfectly timed and positioned. Large chunks of rock began moving toward the Krokan formation, but slowly enough that the enemy didn't see them as an immediate threat. Phase 2. Nick and Dan, launch when ready. The small shuttle bay ranger separated from the main ship and began flying toward the enemy formation. It was barely visible against the black of space, designed to avoid detection by electronic sensors. Phase 3. Amy, coordinate with Yethna. Wait for my signal. Lisa watched as the asteroids got closer to the Krokan ships. The enemy was starting to notice them now. Some of the smaller vessels began moving to intercept and destroy the incoming rocks. Now, Lisa whispered. Amy activated her communication. Link. Yethna, activate barrier set 1. Suddenly, invisible walls appeared throughout the Krokan formation. Ships that had been moving to intercept asteroids crashed directly into the barriers. Other vessels, trying to avoid their crashing allies, collided with each other or flew directly into asteroid fragments. The effect was beyond what Lisa had hoped for. The Krokan formation, which had been moving in perfect coordination, dissolved into chaos. Millions of ships were suddenly flying in random directions, trying to avoid obstacles that appeared and disappeared without warning. Barrier set 2, Amy called out. More walls appeared in different locations. The confusion in the enemy formation grew worse. Ships were crashing into barriers, into asteroids, and into each other. The perfect coordination of the hive mind was breaking down as the Central Intelligence tried to process too many unexpected obstacles at once. Nick, report, Lisa called over the radio. We're through the outer defenses. Nick's voice crackled back. The escorts are too busy avoiding crashes to pay attention to us. Beginning approach to the command ship. Lisa watched the tactical display as the tiny shuttle moved through the chaos toward the massive Krokan command vessel. Explosions were happening all around it as the enemy formation continued to fall apart. "Dan here," came another radio call. "I can see the command ship's communication array. It's huge. This compound should disrupt their entire network." "Do it." There was a long pause. Then Dan's voice came back, excited. "Compound deployed. I can see it spreading through their systems. Captain, something weird is happening." On the tactical display, Lisa could see what Dan meant. The Krokan ships were starting to move in different directions. Instead of working together, groups of them were beginning to fight each other. "The hive mind is breaking down," Amy said in amazement. "They're reverting to individual behavior, but they don't know how to act as individuals." Ambassador Zeth Ka stared at the screen. "They are attacking their own ships." Lisa nodded. "Without the central intelligence to coordinate them, they're confused and afraid. Fear makes creatures do unpredictable things." The chaos continued to spread through the Krokan formation. Ships that had been moving toward the inner planets were now turning around, fleeing in panic. Others were attacking anything that moved, including their own allies. "Nick, Dan, get out of there now," Lisa ordered. "The whole formation is falling apart." "Already moving, Captain. You should see this from up close. They're going completely crazy." Lisa watched as the most feared military force in the galaxy destroyed itself. The Krokan horde, which had conquered dozens of civilizations through overwhelming coordination, was tearing itself apart because they had never learned to think as individuals. "Captain," Amy said quietly, "we're receiving a transmission. It's from the Krokan command ship." "Put it through." A new voice came over the speakers, harsh and alien but speaking in standard galactic language. "Human vessel, identify yourself. This is Captain Lisa Brooks of the Earth ship Retribution. I am Queen Mother Vexshar of the Krokan horde. What have you done to my children?" Lisa looked at the display showing thousands of Krokan ships attacking each other. "I gave them the ability to think for themselves, something your species apparently never learned. You have made them mad. They do not know how to exist without the hive mind. Then maybe it's time they learned." There was a long pause. When the Queen Mother spoke again, her voice was different, uncertain. "We have conquered 47 worlds. No species has ever defeated us in battle. You never fought humans before." Another pause. "What do you want from us?" Lisa smiled grimly. "I want you to leave this system and never come back. Find empty worlds to colonize. Learn to build instead of destroy. Your choice." "And if we refuse?" Lisa looked at the chaos on her screen. The Krokan formation was completely broken now, with ships fleeing in all directions. "Look around you, Queen Mother. You don't have an army anymore." Queen Mother Vexshar did not answer Captain Lisa Brooks right away. On the tactical display, the Krokan ships continued to attack each other in confusion. What had been the most feared military force in the galaxy was now destroying itself. "Queen Mother," Lisa said again, "your army is falling apart. Make your choice now." "You do not understand," the alien voice replied. "My children cannot survive without the hive mind. They will all die without central control." Lisa looked at Ambassador Zeth Ka. The Viridian was glowing brighter now, hope returning to his crystalline features. But Lisa knew the battle was not over yet. 70 million confused and frightened Krokan warriors were still dangerous, even if they were fighting each other. "Dan," Lisa called over the radio, "can you reverse your compound? Give them back their coordination?" "Maybe," Dan's voice crackled, back from the shuttle. "But why would we want to do that?" "Because right now they're panicking. Panicked animals are unpredictable. I'd rather deal with an organized enemy that can think clearly." Amy looked at Lisa with surprise. "Captain, we have them beaten. Why give them back their advantage?" "Because I want them to choose to leave, not be forced to run away in terror. There's a difference." Lisa activated the communication channel again. "Queen Mother, I'm going to give your people back their coordination, but only if you agree to my terms." "What terms?" "You leave this system immediately. You find empty worlds to settle on. You stop attacking other civilizations. And you learn to live without consuming everything around you. And if we agree, then you get to survive. Your species continues to exist, just in a different way. There was a long silence. Lisa could imagine the alien Queen Mother considering options she had probably never thought about before. The Krokan. Horde had always solved problems through conquest and consumption. Now they had to learn a completely different way of living. How do we know you will keep your word? Vexshar finally asked. Because humans understand what it means to change, Lisa replied. We used to be a violent species that fought each other, constantly. We learned to be better. You can learn too. Nick's voice came over the radio. Captain, we're seeing movement from the command ship. Looks like they're preparing to broadcast something to their fleet. Stand by, Nick. Queen Mother, what's your decision? I accept your terms, Vexshar said quietly. Return the hive mind to my children. We will leave this place. Lisa nodded to Amy. Signal Dan. Restore their coordination, but keep monitoring their communications. If they try to trick us, we can disrupt them again. Dan's voice came back a few minutes later. Compound neutralized. Their network is coming back online. The change on the tactical display was immediate. The Krokan ships stopped attacking each other and began forming organized groups again. But instead of preparing for battle, they started moving toward the edge of the system. They're actually leaving, Amy said in amazement. Ambassador Zeth Ka moved closer to Lisa. Captain, my people owe you a debt that can never be repaid. You have saved our entire civilization. The day isn't over yet, Lisa warned. We need to make sure they actually leave and don't come back. Over the next 6 hours, the human crew watched as the massive Krokan fleet organized itself for departure. The aliens moved efficiently but without their previous aggressive purpose. They were still dangerous, but they were no longer predators. Queen Mother Vexshar contacted the Retribution one more time before leaving. Captain Brooks, I must ask you something. Why did you show mercy to us? Your species could have destroyed us completely. Lisa thought carefully before answering. Because destruction is easy. Anyone can kill. But changing an enemy into something better, that's much harder. And it lasts longer. We will remember this lesson. I hope so. The galaxy has room for everyone, but only if we all learn to share it. The last Krokan ship disappeared from the sensor screen as they jumped away to distant star systems. The Viridian worlds were safe, but Lisa knew the real work was just beginning. Amy, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the mission was successful, but we need ships out here to help the Viridians rebuild their defenses. Already done, Captain. Admiral Peterson says a support fleet will arrive in 2 weeks. Ambassador Zeth Ka approached Lisa again. Captain, my people would like to honor you and your crew. Would you accept an invitation to visit our home world, Safun? Looked around the bridge at her team. They were all exhausted but smiling. They had done the impossible and saved an entire civilization. We'd be honored to visit. 3 days later, Lisa stood in the crystal gardens of the Viridian capital city. The floating plants and glowing trees were more beautiful than anything she had ever seen. But what impressed her most was how the Viridians lived in complete harmony with their environment. This is what we were fighting to protect, she said to Nick, who was standing beside her taking pictures. Think the Krokans will really change? Nick asked. Maybe. Change is hard, but it's possible. We did it. Dan and Amy joined them in the garden. Dan was carrying a small crystal sculpture that the Viridians had given him as a gift. The Viridians want to share more than just the Nexus Gate locations, Amy reported. They're offering to teach us their healing technologies and energy systems. In exchange for what? Protection. They want humans to help defend other peaceful species in the galaxy. Lisa nodded. It made sense. The Viridians had learned that hiding was not always enough. Sometimes you needed guardians who were willing to fight for what was worth protecting. That evening, Lisa attended a ceremony in the great crystal hall of the Viridian capital. Thousands of aliens filled the space, all of them glowing softly. In gratitude, Ambassador Zeth Ka spoke for his people. Today we celebrate not just our survival, but the discovery of true allies. he said. The humans have shown us that strength and wisdom can exist together. They have proven that those who are feared can also be those who protect. After the ceremony, Lisa walked alone through the quiet streets of the city. The crystal buildings reflected starlight in patterns that seemed to dance. She thought about what they had accomplished and what it meant for the future. Her communicator beeped. It was a message from Admiral Peterson back on Earth. Captain Brooks, excellent work. The Nexus Gate technology will change everything for humanity, but I'm more interested in what else you've started. 3 other peaceful species have already contacted us asking for protection from aggressive neighbors. It looks like Earth is about to become the galaxy's unofficial police force. Lisa smiled as she read the message. It was not what she had expected when this mission began, but it felt right. Humans had spent centuries learning to control their violent nature. Now they could use that hard-won wisdom to help others. Good, she said to herself. The galaxy needs guardians. The next morning, as the Retribution prepared to return to Earth, Ambassador Zethka gave Lisa a final gift. It was a small crystal that glowed with inner light. This contains the history of our people, he explained. Our struggles, our growth, our journey from fear to peace. Perhaps it will help your species as you begin your own journey as protectors. Lisa accepted the crystal carefully. We'll do our best to be worthy of the trust you've shown us. You already have. As the Retribution jumped back toward Earth, Lisa stood on the bridge looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Krokan horde was looking for new worlds to colonize. Peacefully. Other species were learning that humanity could be an ally instead of a threat. And the galaxy was slowly becoming a safer place for those who chose creation over destruction. It would not be easy. There would be other threats, other battles, other impossible odds to face. But humanity had found its true purpose among the stars. They were no longer just warriors. They were guardians, and that made all the difference.